Hello and welcome to another of WebbPaton's webinars, once again brought to you virtually by me, Libby Barron, and my colleague Becky Farthing. Becky and I have talked about the Agricultural Transition Plan and phasing out of BPS in a previous webinar. If you missed it, don't worry, you can catch up by visiting our website, Facebook page or YouTube page, and we'll post a link for those later on. But for this time round, we're going to be talking about countryside stewardship and elms. So let's kick things off, Becky, with countryside stewardship. Can you tell me what changes are there to countryside stewardship for 2021?
Well, for farmers entering into new countryside stewardship agreements from 2021, they will be able to break those agreements at agreed points without penalty through an annual break clause once they have secured a place in environmental land management schemes. This includes, in a number of instances, the national pilot. Otherwise, you will remain on the same terms and conditions for the 5-year duration of your mid-tier countryside stewardship agreement. Other important changes to the new countryside stewardship agreement starting from 2021 are the removal of additional penalties for the over-declaration of land and scheme breaches. Instead, the RPA will adjust the claim to the found area. There's going to be a changed approach to inspection, focusing on on-site reviews that looks at whether or not the environmental outcomes have been achieved and that it doesn't disproportionately penalise farmers. There's going to be a developed system of warnings to give agreement holders a chance to put things right where this is possible and still get paid, offering signposting to advice or guidance to help farmers get things right.
And Becky, what changes are being put in place to support the 25-year environment plan?
So further changes in 2021 to countryside stewardship to support the continued delivery of the 25-year environmental plan goals includes the expansion of educational access provision to farmers in mid-tier agreements. This will enable school pupils to visit farms for educational experiences and for care farming visits. There's going to be broader advice provided by Natural England as part of the catchment sensitive farming scheme. So this will include advice on air quality and flood mitigation, as well as diffusing water pollution. There's going to be wider scope of some of the current capital grants to cover air quality, with 2 new capital options specifically to address air quality issues. Finally, there's going to be an increased level of maximum funding for your capital only grant, so whether that's your water capital grant or your hedgerow boundary grant. And this has been increased from £10,000 to a maximum of £20,000, which is excellent news.
And can you tell me what the timescales are to apply for countryside stewardship, Becky?
So a further round of countryside stewardship offers will open for applications shortly, and this will be for agreements starting from the 1st of January 2022. Thereafter, countryside stewardship agreements will be offered during the next 2 to 3 years, with the last agreement starting in 2024. There will be options to extend your existing higher level stewardship and countryside stewardship agreements in 2022, and DEFRA are best looking at how to extend these even further over the agricultural transition periods.
So I feel pretty up to date now with countryside stewardship, but what do we know, Becky, about environmental land management schemes?
Well, environmental land management schemes are going to be a key part of the delivery of the government's 25-year environmental plan. They will no longer have the numbered tiers but named components, with a phased introduction ahead of its full application as it's rolled out fully from 2024 onwards. Formerly Tier 1, we now have the Sustainable Farming Incentive. This is intended to give as many farmers as possible the chance to be paid for public goods, paying for management above that is required by regulations. It will sit alongside the continuing of countryside stewardship schemes and is expected to emphasise soil health, nutrient management and integrated pest management. This is to be piloted at whole farm level in 2021 with the aim of 1,000 farms. Details of this should hopefully be issued shortly. It will then be rolled out more widely in 2022. Formerly Tier 2, we now have the local nature recovery. As the title implies, The options are for more significant work on species, habitat and land use change, and are likely to be geared to the location in question. Formerly Tier 3, the top tier, we now have landscape recovery. This is for the landscape and ecosystem recovery, which with their larger scale will not have pilots for example projects from 2022. As the title implies, this is aimed at a larger scale, so we might more usually see collaborative activity, perhaps over areas of 2,000 to 3,000 hectares.
So who is going to be eligible for these different tiers?
So the plan is for the sustainable farming incentive to be open and accessible to all farmers to help contribute to the important environmental and animal health and welfare outcomes. The local nature recovery and landscape recovery will be for farmers who want to go even further to achieve environmental outcomes in their local area or at a landscape and whole ecosystem scale. Eligibility for landscape recovery is likely to be project specific and limited to land with the right natural capital assets at the right scale to deliver transformational landscape recovery.
And Becky, I've heard a lot about public money for public goods. Can you tell me what types of public goods will be paid for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way public goods are paid for will be different to what we know now. Less prescriptive, more choice and flexibility. The length of the agreements will be flexible according to the individual circumstances and what farmers want to deliver through their agreements. Examples of the types of actions paid for are shown on the slide and show for the various different levels. Payments will be set to make sure that making environmental improvements is financially viable and fair to encourage a high level of participation. Agreement lengths could range for, say, annual for your basic sustainable farming incentive contracts to periods of years where there is more commitment under local nature recovery. We expect even more substantial lengths where there is a major change in land management under landscape recovery. The sustainable farming incentive is likely to offer a structure of options so that for each package on offer, there would be a basic level, but with higher rates payable for higher levels of commitment. On approach to payments, DEFRA has indicated that it understands the need to offer more than under the current income forgone cost incurred. We see the countryside stewardship. So that while income forgone is a starting point, DEFRA do want to pay more fairly to achieve its goals and is looking at a range of different methods. The proposed payment rates are still to be published, but please do keep an eye out on our social media pages and our website for further updates. As and when we know them, they will be released here.
Thank you, Becky, for giving us a quick update on Countryside Stewardship and Elms. That's all we have time for this week, but if you have any questions, please do ring us or drop us an email. Look out for our next webinar, which will be released shortly. Once again, we hope you enjoyed our webinar. Thank you for watching and hopefully see you all soon. Thank you.